There's a specific pattern that shows up again and again among people who once seemed unstoppable, visible everywhere, dominating every room, at the center of every conversation. And then, almost overnight, they're simply gone. No dramatic announcement, no explanation. Just quiet, sudden absence. Most people assume this disappearance means failure, decline, or defeat. But often, the opposite is true. Understanding why powerful people disappear reveals one of the most misunderstood principles of real influence: why constant visibility eventually becomes a liability. Being visible constantly, always available, always commenting, always present in every room, creates a specific kind of exposure that becomes increasingly costly over time. Every appearance is an opportunity for scrutiny, criticism, and the slow erosion of mystery that once made someone compelling. Powerful people often recognize this shift before others do, sensing that continued visibility has stopped serving them and started working against them. Think about public figures who dominate headlines and conversations for a period of time, then seem to vanish almost completely. This isn't always failure. Often, it's a deliberate recognition that overexposure was diminishing their influence rather than strengthening it. The constant presence that once built their reputation eventually reaches a point of diminishing returns, where each additional appearance adds less value and more risk. Why withdrawal often signals strategic recalibration, not defeat. When someone who was previously everywhere suddenly steps back, the assumption is often that something went wrong, that they lost relevance, influence, or capability. In reality, strategic withdrawal frequently reflects the opposite: a deliberate decision to reassess, rebuild, or redirect energy towards something more valuable than continued visibility could provide in that moment. This pattern shows up repeatedly among those who eventually return with renewed influence. Their absence wasn't decline. It was preparation, a period spent developing new capability, new strategy, or new positioning away from public observation. The disappearance that looked like weakness from the outside was actually strength being quietly rebuilt beneath the surface. Why mystery requires periodic absence to remain effective. Constant presence eventually eliminates mystery entirely. When someone is always visible, always accessible, always predictable in their availability, the intrigue that once surrounded them gradually disappears. Powerful people often understand, whether consciously or intuitively, that periodic absence is necessary to maintain the sense of mystery that made them compelling in the first place. This absence creates a specific psychological effect. When someone who was constantly present suddenly becomes unavailable, people begin to wonder why, what they're doing, what they're building, why the disappearance occurred. This wondering itself becomes a form of continued relevance, often more powerful than constant visibility could have provided, because it activates curiosity rather than familiarity. Why protecting energy requires strategic retreat. Maintaining genuine influence requires significant energy, energy that becomes depleted through constant public engagement, constant availability, and constant performance. Powerful people who sustain their influence over long periods understand that protecting this energy sometimes requires stepping back entirely rather than attempting to maintain the same level of visibility indefinitely without rest or recalibration. This isn't weakness. It's recognition that sustainable influence requires the same kind of rhythm that sustainable performance requires in any demanding pursuit. Periods of intense engagement followed by periods of genuine withdrawal and recovery. Those who ignore this rhythm, attempting constant visibility without pause, often burn out in ways that damage their influence far more than strategic absence ever could. Why sudden disappearance sometimes reflects genuine reassessment sometimes. The disappearance of a powerful person reflects genuine internal reassessment, a recognition that the path they were on, however successful it appeared externally, no longer aligned with what they actually wanted or valued. This kind of disappearance isn't strategic positioning. It's authentic reconsideration, a willingness to step away from visible success in order to pursue something more meaningful, even if that pursuit requires temporary or permanent absence from public attention. This pattern deserves recognition separate from strategic withdrawal because it reflects a different kind of strength, the willingness to abandon visible achievement in favor of internal alignment, even when doing so confuses or disappoints those who valued the visible version of that person's success. Why return when it happens often carries more impact than continued presence would have when powerful people do return after a period of genuine absence. Their return often carries significantly more impact than continued, uninterrupted presence would have provided. The absence itself creates anticipation, curiosity, and renewed attention. That constant visibility gradually erodes over time. This is why comebacks, when genuine and well-timed, often generate more interest and influence than sustained, uninterrupted presence ever could. This doesn't mean disappearing strategically guarantees a triumphant return. It means that when substance exists to support the return, the preceding absence often amplifies its impact rather than diminishing it, creating a specific kind of renewed relevance that constant, unbroken visibility struggles to replicate. Powerful people disappear for many reasons: strategic recalibration, protection of limited energy, genuine internal reassessment, or the recognition that mystery requires periodic absence to remain effective. This disappearance is rarely simple defeat, even when it initially appears that way to outside observers. Understanding this pattern changes how you interpret sudden absence, both in others and potentially in your own life. Recognizing that stepping back, when done deliberately and for genuine reasons, often serves influence and well-being far better than constant, uninterrupted visibility ever could.